I almost said good Friday morning to you. It's not Friday. It's Thursday. But for some folks, it may feel like Friday because of the holiday weekend. Regardless of whether your weekend is starting today, tomorrow, or at some other time, good, drippy, wet, stormy, dark, gloomy Thursday morning to you. And welcome to Light the Tower on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. My name is Craig Way. I do thank you very much for joining us. Jeff Howe is at Steve Sarkisian's media availability right now, at Sark's media availability, but he will be here right around the top of the hour and for hour number 2. Coming up on the program, we're going to obviously keep you updated on what's going on in the first round at Masters. I'll tell you right now, Tiger Woods is playing the third hole, the par 4 third hole. He has made par on the par 4 first hole and the par 5 second hole. So he's even par through 2 holes playing the par 4 third. So there's your Tiger update. But we'll give you a scoreboard update, Masters leaderboard update coming up. That's because we have golfer extraordinaire, golf aficionado, golf reporter, and all-around good guy, Cameron Parker, is our producer, and he's keeping a very close watch on the Masters leaderboard, correct?
I have the try box open up on my laptop, and then we have ESPN on in the studio, so they're providing an in-course update as well. So
nice. Okay. All right. So that's good. In fact, I'll just go ahead and tell you right now, the early guys teeing off, two-way top of the leaderboard, Adrian Meronk and Victor Hovland. I was just telling a story about Victor Hovland, who, of course, played at Oklahoma State. The women's basketball media relations director, great guy, Ryan Cameron, was at the baseball game when Texas played on Friday in Stillwater, and we were chatting it up. And I said, hey, good weekend for you. He goes, well, I'm only going to be here today. And I said, what's that? He says, I'm going to Augusta. And I said, and he'd been before because as the golf media relations director, he'd worked closely with Ricky Fowler and several other ones. And I said, oh, all right. I said, who are you going with? He said, Hovland. And sure enough, I saw a picture like on Monday, I guess, at Augusta with Victor Hovland and Ryan standing in front of the Butler cabin. And Victor Hovland out of the gates at 2 under and tied for the early lead. He and this is how he did it. He made eagle at the par 5 second, then came back with at a par on the par 4 third hole. So he's 2 under par. Do you know Adrian Meronk? Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, so he actually played in the Dell Match Play 2 weeks ago. He's
okay.
top 64 in the world. He's like 6'6", I believe.
Big dude, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I think he actually bogeyed number 1, birdie number 3, and then birdie number 2, birdie number 3, and bogey number 5, birdie number 6, birdie number 7. So Morocco on the roller coaster here through 8 holes. So he's playing. He went out real early this morning, so he's already playing the par 4 ninth hole right now. But he's tied for the lead island. So anyway, there's we'll keep you updated on the Masters leaderboard. We'll obviously do that and let you know how Tiger's doing, and Sergio Garcia right now, who's 1 under par through 7. So we'll keep you updated on the Masters leaderboard. Also, coming up at the bottom of the hour, Bill Schoening will be on with us. The Spurs are in town. They're going to play at Moody Center tonight against Portland. They're going to play against Minnesota on Saturday, so they got a couple of ball games there. They also are playing in Dallas to when they get ready to wrap up the regular season. And the Mavericks in the thick of the fight again to try to land in the playoffs, thanks to that big win they got over the Kings last night. So the Mavericks still a shot. So you're telling me there's a chance. You know, as a Maverick fan, they still got a shot.
Tie with OKC for the last spot in the play-in. They're going to need OKC to drop at least one of the next 2 possibly if Dallas wants to get in.
Yeah, and Oklahoma City has Memphis, I believe, and I forgot who the other one is.
I think they have Phoenix left as well, but I'll double-check that.
Well, that would help as well. All right, so that's where
Utah and Memphis.
Utah and Memphis. Okay, those are the 2 remaining games for the Thunder. They're remaining on the rest of the regular season schedule. I'll tell you what we should probably do, because we are going to have Bill Schoening on at the bottom of the hour. Normally, that's where we bring you a Longhorn Notebook. And we will do that in the bottom of the second hour. And Jeff will take you through the Sark availability on that. But I want to go ahead and do it right now because of what's going on with the weather. So why don't we jump right into the Longhorn Notebook?
Longhorn Notebook.
And this particular notebook, there's two prongs to it. One is basketball, one is baseball. And the one in basketball is a little further peek at the schedule for next year. The way that when schedule releases come in college basketball, the first thing you invariably find out about are the non-conference classic or tournament type of games because they get their fields together and they do that. And I believe it is fall 2024 that the Longhorns will be headed back to Maui to play the Maui Invitational. Of course, they were, supposed to play there in 21, and they moved the Maui Invitational from Maui to Asheville. And you and I know, both as natives of the state of North Carolina, Asheville's a beautiful city. It's a great place, but it's not Maui. But Texas did win that event that year. They beat Davidson, they beat Indiana, and they beat North Carolina to win that event that year. When Shaka Smart was the coach. Speaking of Shaka, this was what came down yesterday, if you didn't hear about it, the Big 12 Big East battle. Remember, Creighton came in here in December, and it was a good ball game. The Longhorns won that contest. And they're not playing Creighton. No, they're playing Marquette, coached by none other than Shaka Smart. And it will be in Milwaukee. They'll play them at Fiserv Forum. So no date set on those. But some of the other interesting, Kansas and UConn. Is one of those, and TCU's playing Georgetown again. I think they're playing them again in looking at. But Texas is going to be playing in the Big 12 Big East battle at Marquette, and it'll be early next season. That, in addition to the Empire Classic that we talked about the other day, and we don't yet know the matchups on that with Texas and UConn and Louisville and Indiana all in the Empire Classic at Madison Square Garden in New York, and that'll be next December.
If you had a choice between Maui, New York, or the
Maui.
battle for Atlantis, it's
Maui.
Maui, okay.
Maui, yeah, it's Maui.
Okay,
now, let me say this: I have not had a chance to go to Atlantis because the one time the men played there, and the one time the women played there, Longhorn football both times was playing at Kansas. The first one was that forgettable 2016 one there, which was kind of signaling the beginning of the end of Charlie Strong's time in Texas when they lost that game in overtime to Kansas. And that was during that. And the men were playing in Atlantis that year. That was Shaka Smart's first season as head coach because they played Washington there right after they played Washington in Shanghai, the first game coached by Shaka when they played Washington in Shanghai. That was the one where then athletic director Steve Patterson wanted me to go to Shanghai to do the game. So I was going to go, and then he was dismissed. And Mike Perrin, the interim AD, called me and said, "Do you really have a burning desire to go to Shanghai?" And I said, "Not really." And he said, because I was going to have to miss the football game at West Virginia.
Yeah.
And he said, "Would you rather go to Morgantown than go to Shanghai?" I said, "Mike, they're both foreign countries, so I'm okay with either one." And I said, "No." And I went on and went to Morgantown, but actually called the basketball game Remy style, like we all became familiar with during the pandemic. Sat in the football broadcast booth in Morgantown and called the basketball game there against Washington. They played them in Shanghai. That was when Bill Bolton was doing the telecast for ESPN, and everybody figured that he had become a spokesman for the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce. What a beautiful place this is, so steeped in historic beauty and tradition. This is a watershed moment for college basketball. Everyone has to take advantage of it, including the Conference of Champions. He drew some heat, I remember, some criticism for being kind of a mouthpiece for the Chinese government and the Tourist Bureau.
That was during a very hot time, too, because the NBA had their issues with playing overseas.
Absolutely. And so Texas played Washington there, lost to them there, then played them in the Bahamas and lost them there. Washington had DeJounte Murray back then.
And the weather wasn't great in Lawrence, was it, right?
Cold.
Yeah.
Very cold. So that was one time. And then, of course, the second opportunity to go to Atlantis, to the Bahamas, would have been last November. The Texas women were there. But again, football at Kansas. So Roger went and did the games, which included losses to Marquette and Louisville and then a win over Rutgers there. So So maybe it's unfair for me to judge and say that. I just know from the times I've been to Maui's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it would, yeah. And what'd you say, the third one was New York?
Yeah, because those are the three biggest tournaments. And then you have like the Portland, the PDX 91, whatever they call it.
Yeah, the Nike PK80. Now, that was fun. I did go and do that.
That's when they played Duke in overtime, right?
Yeah, that one, I didn't get to call that game because of the football game here against Texas Tech. Went up, did the game, the win over Butler, came back on like a 5 a.m. flight, did the football game against Texas Tech. Ted Emmerich, our good friend who does Westwood One, a lot of ESPN work, was our studio anchor for 8 years on the Longhorn Radio Network, was already up there filling in doing Florida's broadcast, and so he was available. So we had him do the Duke broadcast, the Texas-Duke game. He did that one, and then I flew back to do the Sunday game when they played Gonzaga.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, yeah, and that was a good – I liked that because I liked getting to work in both the older building, the old Veterans Memorial Coliseum in Portland where the Trailblazers used to play, where they had the 1965 Final Four when Bill Bradley scored 58 points in a third-place game, still technically in the record books as the most points ever scored in a quote-unquote Final Four game, even though it was a consolation game, a third-place game. And then in the Moda Center, we can ask Bill Schoening about this because it's you're kind of up in the house a little bit, but that's how it kind of is around the NBA. And it's nice there when they played there. They played Duke there Saturday, and they played Gonzaga there on Sunday on that one. So it was good to be able to do a couple of those. So that's a good early season event. I liked doing the games when Texas played in Brooklyn. And again, this was Shaka's first year. They played in Brooklyn
At the Barclays
Center, and ended up losing both games to like Colorado and Northwestern, I believe it was. And it was, but I liked that arena. I liked it. And
it's incredible.
Yeah, and when Texas played in the NIT and won the NIT in 19, they had the off day in between winning the semifinal over TCU and beating Lipscomb in the championship. Eddie Orn, of course, is a scout for the Brooklyn Nets, and Eddie and I and David Garrett, our producer, engineer on the road for basketball, went to the Nets, had a game, I believe it was against the Wizards. We went to a game there and had a good time there at Barclays. So that's a nice place as well. All right, so that was the basketball is one part of the notebook. Here's the other part, and it does get to a question on the hey, you take a look at it there on the Specs text line. Our man CB posted the picture that I had posted on Facebook.
He's quick.
Yeah, he did. That was something I posted there, and you see my broadcast chart for Texas and Washington. Now, you see that television monitor? That's a 15-inch non-HD monitor. And here I was having to call a game that had several fresh faces. Snoop Roach comes to mind, and a couple of those guys had identical haircuts. And I'd been to some practices, but it was still, you really had to squint to be able to see it. They did all these great preparations, Learfield did, to make sure that we could call it in real time. They had sound of the effects feed from Shanghai coming in our headsets in real time. I could hear Bruno Mars music before the game started. The net mics, it was all in real time. The one thing that was forgotten was an HD monitor. It was a non-HD monitor, and I was really squinting to call that one there. But that was the deal there, and CB, thanks for posting that. That was when they played in Shanghai. Here's somebody else that said, been to Atlantis, Maui, New York, just spent a week in Maui over spring break. You're right, Craig, no contest. It's Maui. Now, again, I can't really speak about the Bahamas. I've been with the women to Cancun with Texas women's basketball, and also to the Virgin Islands, which was nice. But not haven't had a chance to go to the Bahamas, to Atlantis because of the football thing. So anyway, there was the deal. Somebody said, hey, Marquette is going to be in Maui this year. So we'll do that. Somebody said, could we get some salty Craig this morning? Really enjoyed that yesterday. Oh, we got salty on a couple old things that people were about. I was actually in a good mood all day yesterday, and I am again today, even though we don't know what's going to happen with baseball, which is so anyway, it said, anyone know if the baseball game is still happening today? You know, it's that I do this every year, and I don't mind doing this every year. I think it's important to reiterate this every year, and that is, it is a game until it isn't a game. In other words, until you hear that no game is being played, then assume that the game is going to be played. Now, I get it. I understand a lot of folks, well, hey, I'm in and out of meetings, I'm at work, so I want to make sure I don't miss out in case that the game is off. I want to make sure that that the game is still on. So as far as we know right now, David Pierce was on with Bucky and Aaron this morning. He said they're examining all possibilities, and they are. And if you expand your mind and imagination to even consider the possibility of maybe, extending it into Easter Sunday, the only way that can happen is if travel arrangements were made by Kansas State with regard to a charter where you don't put the 72-hour time clock on there. And what that rule is, in the Big 12 Conference when it comes to baseball, from the time your team lands on the ground in another place, you've got 72 hours. And they don't actually put a clock or a stopwatch and say, right now you've got 66 hours until you have to be out of town. It's not that. But you basically have 3 days. So you can't extend it to another day, even with the charter. But what the charter would allow you to do is move the start date of when you land in town back a day if you needed to do that. And I don't know that that's the case with Kansas State. I only know that discussions have been going on. So I'm not exactly sure where that is right now. But there's also the possibility, I think, weather will start clearing out by tomorrow evening. You could possibly see them playing one game tomorrow, maybe a doubleheader on Saturday or something like that if it had to be done by Saturday night. So these are the kinds of things that they have to examine. These are the kinds of things that they have to look at before they make a definite decision and say, hey, we can't play today. We're going to start tomorrow and try to get through we're going to try to see if we can find a way to get through, get it all done by wrapping it up on Saturday night. Whatever the situation is, try to wrap it up on that. But nothing is a definite yet. Obviously, if something happens and we know for sure that a game is going to be postponed or a later start or whatever the situation might be, we'll let you know. And that's why we always say we suggest, obviously, keep it tuned here, not only during this program, but when Chad and Zay come on following us, they're going to be right in tune with it, with what the university is saying. I will be as well. Certainly going to get off the air as well, and I will let them know. In fact, I'm leaving a little bit early today. Jeff will be here. I'm going to leave a little bit early today in 11 o'clock hour to go over to the ballpark as we work on some technical things. That spoke to the saltiness that somebody talked about there, to try to make sure that some of those problems are remedied as best as possible. So I'll be over at the ballpark, and as soon as we know something, as soon as it gets definite that we know that a game has either been postponed or just rained out for the day or whatever, or if it's still going on, we'll let people know. But the best way to approach it is simply to assume and expect that the game is going to be played in its regular time slot, which is 6:30 that it will be in its regular spot until we hear otherwise. Toward that end, the Texas State baseball is on the road at South Alabama, and all the stuff that we're getting here is supposed to be slapping into Mobile by like tomorrow night late or something like that. So what they're trying to get out front of it, they're playing a doubleheader today in Mobile, and then they're going to play a single game tomorrow. Texas State softball's in the same boat with Texas. I mean, they're at home in San Marcos, and you got all this bad weather. Texas softball is up in Des Moines, up in Ames, Iowa. Flew their charter into Des Moines, and then they're at Ames. I don't know that there is any kind of a weather issue up there. In fact, I can even tell you by looking at it right now that because I on my phone, on my grid, on the weather grid that I have on my phone, I have every Big 12 conference series on the grid. And Ames, right now, it says there is no weather.
There you go. See, I've been having the same issue with Apple all week.
It's a blank.
Where the weather app doesn't load.
That's. Oh, now we go. 36 degrees right now, but sunny. And they're supposed to play at 4 o'clock this afternoon. By the time they first pitch, it'll be 51 degrees. And we'll get to a high of 52. And it's going to be sunny tomorrow and Saturday. And highs in the 60s. So they'll be able to play all weekend for softball up at Iowa State. Here, it's definitely up in the air because of the rain. And we'll keep everybody posted on that. On the Specs text line, so he said, Cantankerous Craigway is best. I don't like being cantankerous if I can. Here's somebody with a take. It says, Terry not getting anything done. You look down the list, Texas is nowhere inside. A lot of the guys are supposed Texas targets too. I'm not sure what you're basing it on other than looking down a list of certain things. They are on the list of schools that L.J. Cryer has been contacted about. He's in the transfer portal. They are working. This was the question that we had yesterday from the same fan hammering the same theme about seems like he is way behind. What I don't know what you're basing it on other than the rumor mill about what player is considering going one direction or the other. They've been in the portal. They've been working. Remember, some of the guys who are in the portal now were not in the portal until the last few days because of what's been going on in the NCAA tournament. So keep that in mind as well. Just, before passing judgment, wait and see what they do or, in your estimation, do not do before passing judgment on it. Let's just see what happens.
And a lot of guys
just got started, okay?
And a lot of guys are waiting to hear back from the NBA and their draft grades, too.
You got to do that as well.
No, I haven't seen anyone commit yet, either out of the portal. Maybe one or two guys.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Just pump the brakes on it a little bit. Let's see before saying, this guy's not getting it done. It just started. It just got started on that. This sounds like it's coming from the perspective of a person who was not in favor of the interim tag being removed from Rodney Terry's coaching status on that. I don't want to assume anything. It reads like that, but I'm not going to assume that. All I will say is give it a chance. It just got started. Just got started on that. Okay, coming up, Bill Schoening's going to join us. We're going to talk about the Spurs. They're not just now starting. They're nearing the end of a long season. So we'll visit with Bill about these games at Moody Center. So it's kind of a refreshing approach. If you saw the sound bites from Greg Popovich yesterday, Pop was talking about how they plan on doing this regularly every year. Some of the players were having a lot of fun with it as well. So we'll visit with Bill Schoening to talk about that as we continue with Light the Tower. And coming up, we have Inconceivable later this hour. And just past the top of the next hour, Jeff Howe will be back in from the Sark availability, and we'll find out about all that as well. This is Light the Tower on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. Well, if you're planning to watch the Masters this weekend, and hopefully, by the way, they won't be rained out because it's supposed to be some rainy weather, especially once they get to Saturday at Augusta, Saturday and Sunday, or the end of the NBA regular season, or the early days of the Major League Baseball season. Maybe you're an XFL guy. Whatever it might be, if you're not happy with your home entertainment options and setup, then you need to be in touch with Tom McKay and Audiovisual Consultations. They do have the product there. They have the technology, the expertise. They have what you're looking for. Maybe you had a specific 75-inch HD TV in mind. You didn't really want to have to go out and fight the crowds in the big box stores. Tom and his staff get that. Chances are they already have it in stock. If not, they can get their hands on it pretty quickly. And they're also not raising prices like a lot of the other places are. They are being very competitive with that and working with you to give you what you've envisioned for what you want for your bedroom or man cave or family room, den, outside patio, wherever you want your home entertainment or home theater setup to be. Tom and his staff can handle all that. Check them out on the web at avconsultations.com. Then give Tom and his staff a call today at 512-255-8678. Let Tom McKay and Audiovisual Consultations help you realize the home entertainment system of your dreams. Hello, friends. Oh, sorry. We'll give you a Masters leaderboard update. Just couldn't help myself sometimes. That happens. You know, when you're trying to give the Masters leaderboard update and you have that music, you can't help but just sometimes just go, hello, friends. The leader in the Masters right now at 3 under par is Cameron Young. Was that your pick?
He's one of them.
He's one of your picks.
He came out firing.
Yeah. Birdie.
Not bad.
So, Cameron Young is your leader right now at 3 under par. Sergio Garcia is at 2 under par. The aforementioned Adrian Moronk is also -2. Victor Hovland, 2 under. Xander Schauffele, 2 under. So there's Adam Scott is -2, and also Justin Thomas, 2 under par. So already some name brand names starting to get on the board. Tiger Woods still at even par right now. All right, let's go to the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline. A man who loves a good round of golf. A man who knows how to spoil a good round of golf. No, he actually really enjoys it a lot. I played a lot of golf with this guy. None other than the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, my broadcast partner for several years, and we did a talk show together for years. I've lost count of how many years, but it was years, and it's Bill Schoening. I think it was 4 years we actually did a show together, right? 97 and 01?
Yeah, 97 to 01. That's about right. That's about the right time frame. And on the broadcast together, close to 12 years, I guess.
Yeah, let's see.
I guess because I worked with Jerry Trupiano and Brad Sham the first 3 years. So then you came in for football in 92.
Very good.
We worked 9 years together.
We did 10 football and 9 basketball seasons together because we went through 01 football. So it was 10 football, 9 basketball. And then I was a good old studio anchor there from 88 to 91, even predating your time on the network when it was our good friend Tom Dorr who was on there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
That goes.
Tom may very well be listening today.
He could be.
It's kind of a strange out-of-body experience for me, Craig, because we're in Austin. The Spurs are playing the Trailblazers tonight at the Moody Center and the Minnesota Timberwolves on Saturday. And we flew in from Phoenix yesterday, and I'm used to flying with the team for the last 22 years, but flying into Austin was just a weird deal, you know?
I wondered about that.
I did it with Kicker Will, our director of broadcasting. I said, I think the last time I came in this way, I was with Gabe Manecki and Chris Mim.
And so it goes back a little ways there. Okay, so you've answered one question here, and I think because this basically is a road trip experience, even though the Spurs will be obviously the designated home team. So where'd you sleep last night? I mean, it wasn't like home like Wells Branch home, was it?
No, I'm at the team hotel. This is like a regular road trip for me. Now, the family members came down. We had dinner last night at the Iron Cactus on 6th Street, so that was fun, and I walked around a little bit down here. But it was just weird to come to Austin since I still live here and have since 1989. So I never left, even though I've been with the Spurs now for 22 years. So I still live here. So coming in, it's just really weird to be downtown with my bag, walking around as a kind of a visitor. Man, there's a lot of conferences and conventions going on everywhere you go. And that's one of the reasons why I think that the Spurs really want to kind of latch onto what's going on here, because this obviously is such a growing place, such a vibrant place, such a lot of new young people coming in that I think obviously when you try to expand your brand like the Spurs are trying to do, Austin would be a natural place to try to attract a few more fans. And they're going to play games here. Pop even said it yesterday. This is not a one-time deal. We're going to come up here and play a lot.
Well, and I think you'll like. Have you been to a concert at Moody Center? Did you go see Springsteen?
I got this. Our mutual friend Cindy French got me an amazing pair of tickets to see Springsteen. I wasn't even going to go to the show, and I'm a huge fan of the boss, but I did go, and it was an unbelievable experience. That's the only time I've been in the building, so I've not been in for basketball, though I'm looking forward to tonight.
That's right. You were on with me before the Springsteen show, and I asked you how many times did this make it, and you said counting the Stone Pony in Asbury Park, it might be time number 745 to see Bruce, right? Something like that.
It was actually just 16 in a real concert setting. Now, there have been times where I've seen him literally jump up on stage with Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes and do an entire set. So I remember I paid $350 in 1975, I believe it was, or six, to go see this Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes, never dreaming that Bruce would be up there singing an entire set. So
and that was
like a bonus.
And that was $3.50, not $350.
Exactly, $3.50.
For those of us,
we stayed.
Yes,
go ahead.
I started to say, for those of us who spent multi-hundreds of dollars on tickets for a Billy Joel Stevie Nicks concert at Jerry World this Saturday that now will not be happening due to Stevie's band still dealing with COVID issues. It can be a little bit depressing. But yeah, $3.50 you saw him. $3.50 back in the day.
Yeah, and we stayed in some small house. This little Italian lady let us have the back room, me and my buddy Kurt, for $7. This, again, mid-'70s. And we just went down and hung out at the Stone Pony. You had to be 18 to get in to drink. And we were both, I think, 16 or 17. We weren't quite 18 yet, but we both had that inner city swag. He had a leather jacket. I had my bushy mustache, even at that age. So we kind of walked in and like be on the place. And boom, there's Bruce and the Jukes, and it's so much fun. So much fun to be hanging out with those guys back then. But no, back to Austin. This is fun. So I'm really looking forward to the game tonight. We got a lot of young guys, obviously, but I think it's going to be fun for the fans to see a little bit of NBA action, especially on the heels of what you guys did, making it close to the Final Four this year.
You really had a Starsky look going back then in the 70s, right? With because you kind of had that perm thing really good. Your hair was just really.
No. I never had a perm. Never had a perm, Craig. Never had a perm.
It was naturally curly.
I had the hair going. I just had the hair was going. I had the flow going, and it was shoulder length until baseball season started. And then Ed Briette, God rest his soul, our baseball coach, said, "Hey, Schoening, do you want to play first base or do you want to play lead guitar?" So I think I'm better first baseman. So get the hair taken care of, and you can play first base for me. So
years later, you picked up the guitar and you put down the bat.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and I cut the hair too. So I don't know how that worked out, but that was fun.
If for anybody that follows, that's friends with Bill on Facebook, you will see that Bill routinely. And I haven't checked today, but I'm sure you've done it or will do it when you do the Throwback Thursday stuff. A lot of it is you back in the day when you were playing first base in high school or early days of radio. I did notice, and I asked you about this years ago, that your lovely and long-suffering wife, Jerry, was conspicuously absent from like 99% of these photographs, and you said that was her choice. She does not want to be seen in a lot of these pictures.
No, she doesn't want to be seen with me at all. No. She prefers a very laid-back. In fact, last night we were at dinner, had a nice photo taken of the four of us, my two sons and my wife, and she goes, "Do not post this." I mean, it was like as soon as the picture was taken, the picture looks nice. Do not post it. So, there are people who think I'm single because my wife's never in any of my pictures, but she's the one taking the pictures most of the time. So,
yeah.
But she's there. She just doesn't want much of a presence on social media.
Okay. All right. So you had dinner at Iron Cactus. Good choice. I'm guessing you didn't see Pop there, and the reason why I bring this up is Pop made a point in that presser yesterday to say that he said, selfishly speaking, he said, "I'll be there's a lot of great restaurants here, and over the course of the next few days, I will be out every night." He said in there. So I'm maybe we should do this thing on our text line at 337-3776. Where did Pop eat last night? Where will he eat after the game tonight? Where will he eat tomorrow night? And we may get answers like, does Pop like sushi, by the way? I know he's got a very fine palate, and I know he's really into high levels of wine. Does he like sushi?
I'm not sure if he's a sushi guy. Now, these guys go to dinner, and their dinners are legendary, the coaches and players. Where they end up, who knows? But I don't know that sushi is one that you see a lot. I know he's really big into the steakhouses, and especially with Italian. He's really into the Italian thing. And, of course, we had a longtime assistant named PJ Carlissimo, who you know very well.
Yeah.
And PJ's probably, and our mutual friend John Madani will back me up on this, perhaps the foremost expert in terms of Italian restaurants in the United States of America. And I am not kidding. He knows everybody. He knows the manager. He knows the owner. And if you go into just about any restaurant, a really nice restaurant, Italian restaurant, somewhere in the States and say, hey, PJ Carlissimo sent you. You've got a glass of wine coming. You got some bruschetta coming. You got a good spot. PJ knows everybody.
Yeah, I was convinced of this when working with him for Westwood One, doing first and second round action in Tulsa a few years ago. He knew of an outstanding Italian restaurant in Tulsa. And so when we went to that, and they knew who he was, to your point there. So obviously, okay, the reason why I brought up sushi is because obviously Uchi is like one of the finest sushi restaurants, I'm told, in the world, and it's incredibly difficult to get in there. But if anybody could do it, certainly Pop could do it. There's that. I'm thinking if he's thinking Italian, probably Red Ash. And again,
Red Ash, I bet. Yep, I bet Red Ash is on the list.
Yeah,
I'm guessing
another difficult place to gain entrance to without knowing somebody or whatever. So there's that, and then he's got all manner of choices for steak places. There's no doubt.
Oh, sure, Eddie V's is right there on Fifth Street. So yeah, he's got a ton of spots. So that's one of the great things about this city, and he's right, is the number of places for dining. I've given some musical tips to some of the guys.
Oh yeah,
go down to Antone's or Continental Club or the Saxon. There's always something different going on. There was a young lady playing at Antone's last night. I didn't get over there, but I'll probably. I mean, I live here, so it's nothing for me to go hang out at the Saxon pub all the time, wearing my South Austin mix shirt. So I can't wait to get back and doing that a little bit more regular basis once the season's over.
Or as our old friend, the late Sammy Allred, used to call it, the Anglo-Saxon pub. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Bill Schoening with us during this point, and we were we'll get to talking about the basketball in a moment. But you and I used to do the live music update. And Aaron Hogan kind of took it and certainly for years having Tom Gimbel, who's now moved on to New York, do a legitimate live music update. Ours, we would name the bands. What do we used to do? Just take the Austin Chronicle and then just highlight the most unusual band names? Was how we kind of
right.
did.
And there was I'm not sure if the club is still open. Emo's down on Red River.
Good old Emo's Alternative Lounging, according to Cam Parker, producer, is still there. Yeah.
Alternative Lounging. Okay. Well, they always had some great bands. And there's a place called Hole in the Wall on Guadalupe on the Drag. I'm sure that's still there.
Yeah.
I remember interviewing Bob Feller at the Hole in the Wall, which is, I don't know why, but we did. Yeah. It was strange. He was doing like a book tour, and that's where they booked him for this deal. So I remember interviewing him there, which is kind of strange. And not in Van Meter, Iowa, but actually on the Drag in Austin. So there's all kinds of cool musical venues. Some are still around, some aren't. The late great Liberty Lunch in La Zona Rosa. I miss those places. But it's one of the reasons I still love living here, Craig, is that I can still go out and listen to good music. There's a place called Don's Depot on 5th Street. My good buddy Chip Dolan plays there Tuesday night with a band called Grouchy Like Riley. My buddy Bruce Spellman is still the lead singer of a band called Extreme Heat, the best funk band to ever play in this city, in my opinion. They've been together since 1977. So there's still good music everywhere you go. You just got to know where to go.
Okay, so but you used to also like, I remember, Jovita's Cantina, just so you could say Jovita on the air. I remember that. You used to, right. but we would in the day we would pick out band names like what was it? They'll Know Us by the Trail of Dead, and then they just and then they just shorten the name to Trail of Dead.
Like I Love You, but I've chosen darkness. I think they just shortened the name to I've Chosen Darkness.
Right, and then there was Knife in the Water. We remember that. Yeah, Big Ass Truck.
Big Ass Truck.
And
I remember Big Ass Truck had a couple of gigs one weekend, and they had like a gig Friday night and a gig Saturday night, so it was a big ass weekend for Big Ass Truck.
I remember we used to talk about that. And remember we used to say this too. And then there's karaoke out at La Palapa with Big Jim.
Big Jim.
We used to say that all the time.
Big Jim actually called one time. He was loving the fact that we were giving him some pub.
He did do that. Did do that. By the way, somebody pointed out, and I feel compelled to say this only because it's the first time I've ever seen anybody have this take on Uchi. Somebody said, ATX Jags fan says, Uchi is 1, easy to get into, and 2, highly, highly overrated. That you're the first person, sir, who I've ever heard say that. First person ever. I've always heard that it's really good and really difficult to get into. But that's worth worth checking into. Okay, to the basketball. First of all, have they told you where you're broadcasting from? Have they given you your spot?
I think on the Craig Way Memorial spot.
Well, I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, Memorial sounds a little unnerving. I say I hope so, and the reason why, the local sportscast last night, Roger Wallace and KXAN and Bob Ballou at KI and Jeff Jones at KVU all had the time-lapse real quick thing showing the turnover to getting it ready, and it looked like they had only loaded seats on the side where the TV table normally is in the broadcast. Hopefully, I was looking at it backwards, and it'll be the other way around, and you'll have a good spot to do it. So, because, and you've pointed this out, the NBA is not a place for the faint of heart when it comes to your broadcast location, right? Because a lot of the broadcast locations are no longer on the floor. You had a Facebook post with the great Hall of Famer Al McCoy, the voice of the Phoenix Suns, who's wrapping up, his 51st season this year?
51st season. He turns 90 later this month. So they're going to make the playoffs. So he's still going to be going strong, hopefully, if the Suns make any kind of a run. And he'll be going at the age of 90.
Bill, what do you think the odds are that either you or I will even be standing upright at the age of 90, let alone broadcasting games?
Well, if you are around, you will be broadcasting. If I am around, I will not be. So there's a difference.
That's fair. Fair.
But I hope we both go as long as we can, Craig. But you've got a little bit an engine that runs a little bit more than mine. I like to kind of chill. I'm enjoying the fact that I'm in the NBA and have a good break now. So I'll be doing some other stuff. But I can't wait to get back to do it. I'm looking forward to these final 3 games. But then the break comes. Now I've done some college baseball, and I do some things to stay busy during the off season, but you have the record in terms of the number of games and the number of hours that you've spent on the road. You work harder than I, Craig.
Well, one of the nice things that's happened with you in the now 22 years, going 22 into 23 years of doing the Spurs. And it's so easy for me to remember Bill's time because Bill's time started as the play-by-play voice of the Spurs when my time started as the play-by-play voice of the Longhorns because my time didn't start until Bill left. And as we always say, neither of us had a ring until he left. And now
that's exactly
both
right.
of us got rings.
Your first baseball season, they win at Omaha. And I was so happy for the Horns. I really was. But there was an empty spot there, because you do baseball. I did baseball for 12 years. And then, why did they wait until Craig took over until they got a ring? But it was much better, though, the next year the Spurs won. So I didn't have that bitterness anymore.
As I remember the conversation going, I'm at dinner in Omaha after the championship game is over. My phone rings, and I'm at dinner with some people, and I said, this ought to be interesting when I saw it was coming. And I was like, hello. And the first words out of Bill's mouth was, let me see if I got this straight. I do these SOBs, and you did not use the abbreviated term, for 12 years, and the best I get is the semifinals, and you get a national title, your first shot out of the box. And I said, I guess we know where the problem was. But exactly right. as we said, it was until you left, neither of us had rings, and now you've got multiple rings, and it's worked out well. Okay, to the basketball. Now, we know what the Spurs have been going through this year, and really, for that matter, the team they're playing tonight, the Trailblazers. And so this has been a year. I know folks like to use the word tank and stuff like that and all that sort of stuff, and there is a lottery coming up and all that sort of thing. But what has it been like for Pop in terms of looking at the young guys that he does think and feel have a legitimate future with this ball club?
He said in the very beginning of the season at Media Day before training camp started, look, don't go to Vegas and bet on these guys because this is all about development. That's exactly what it's been. And so from that standpoint, even though they've only won 20 games, it has been a successful season because they've had guys that really started out at, young rookies. Malachi Branham's an example I'll give you. He hasn't turned 20 yet. He turns 20 in May. And slowly but surely, he started figuring it out. And the game slowed down for him. And now, he's averaging a double figures. He's shooting a better percentage. And you can just see this is going to be a really, really good player. Jeremy Sohan, who you saw play at Baylor. He's a young athlete. He can really run the floor, does a lot of good things. He's had some knee issues this year that's really kind of slowed him down a little bit, but you can see that he's got a bright future. He's only 19. So you see some of these young guys taking big steps forward, and now you're going to have a lottery pick, and they should have a very, very good player coming out of the draft, no matter who it is, to add to this young nucleus already. Plus, they have a ton of salary cap space, and they've got a bunch of draft picks, Craig. So the future is very bright for the Spurs. It just might take a little while to get there because they got so many young guys they're building around. But, in a few years, they're going to be stockpiling a lot of talent.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Okay, so the Spurs have the game tonight there, and then Saturday against Minnesota, correct?
Correct.
And then finishing up in Dallas at a desperate to make the playoffs Mavericks team that got a big win over Sacramento last night.
Yeah, and we'll see your good buddy Chuck Cooperstein up there in Dallas. I know that he's really pulling for the team to make the playoffs, but and that's the season finale, and then you'll probably find me out at the Anglo-Saxon pub listening to some tunes after that.
One of the great things that I thought happened that was unleashed upon the world was I think the first or second year after you took over the play-by-play for the Spurs, you went to a dude ranch over the summer, like in Montana or someplace, and seeing you on a horse and in a cowboy hat was a sight I'll never forget. And I thought, here's a guy from the west side of Philadelphia who grew up in a row house, who never owned a dog, still doesn't own a dog to this day, and there he is on top of an equine. Not that you haven't placed a bet or two on a horse, we know that, but on top of a horse, wearing a cowboy hat. I thought it was priceless.
I appreciate that, Craig. But it's funny because that really started my love for national parks when I started going to Montana. And so now Jerry and I have now been to 28 national parks. And we got 3 more this summer. Smoky Mountain this summer, and I spent some time up in Gatlinburg. But I just love nature. And even though I did grow up in the inner city, I think that might be part of the reason why I do like to go out to the parks and hike and experience nature and see animals and all that, and just really experience the beauty of this country. And I've been able to do that through the national parks. I think it's one of the great things that's ever happened in this country is the fact that you can go out there to a place like Yosemite or Yellowstone or Glacier or wherever, and really take this beauty in.
I think that's really cool. And by the way, don't let Gatlinburg completely mess up your frame of reference on the Smokies. The Smokies are beautiful, Gatlinburg tourist trap notwithstanding. So just understand.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. That's we're just going to base ourselves there and then go, explore the park. So you got to stay somewhere. Right?
Yep, absolutely. Hey, I appreciate that. Have fun. And who knows? Maybe if I wind up getting rained out or something against Kansas State, this thing I might sneak in over there or something like that.
Come on in. It's your place. We're just visiting.
Great building. Hey, I appreciate the conversation. Thanks, man, and have a good one tonight.
All right, Craig. Anytime.
All right, it's Bill Schoening, good friend, longtime voice of the San Antonio Spurs. And like I said, we did 10 football and 9 basketball seasons together. Had a lot of fun. And we knew each other before that when he was the voice of the Sam Houston State Bearcats and I was doing North Texas back in the Southland Conference days in the 80s. That's where we got to know one another. All right, we need a break. I know we're running behind on a couple of things, but what we're going to do is take a break. We'll come back. We will do Inconceivable. Jeff Howe will be coming up, coming off the Sark availability. We'll find out about all that and more when we continue with Light the Tower on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. Okay, here it is. As we were concerned about weather, right? Rain and how it might affect the baseball games getting played this weekend. Larger concern, though, is as the spring progresses, if we have really severe weather, like high winds, tornadic activity, all that kind of stuff that can do damage to a roof. Maybe you've already sustained damage and you're thinking it's time to at least have somebody take a look at it, if not replace that roof. Well, the guy who could take a really good, honest assessment look at it is John Hardy and his great staff at Divided Sky Roofing and Solar. And if you do have some damage, it's possible that you might be able to get a new roof with those Timberline solar shingles. All the solar products are eligible for a 30% tax credit. No money down, as little as $100 per month, and you don't pay anything until the day they start the job. With solar shingles, you own your own power. You're paying yourself each month, not the power company. We're talking about a 15-minute phone call. That's it. Or even one of those virtual online appointments where you can get all the information you need on a new roof with solar shingles. Check them out. Give John and his staff a call today at 512-995-ROOF. That's 512-995-ROOF. Or check them out on the web at DividedSkyAustin.com. Well, as we get to the weekend, obviously it can mean several different things. And we do have a variety of topics to get to with Inconceivable here on this Thursday, even though we are going into a holiday weekend. So without further ado, we jump right into the topics. I want to start with some golf, actually, because I know the interest that you have in this. Have you seen the interview? Now, for folks who don't know, Cameron, this whole kerfuffle about the LIV Tour and LIV golfers and the PGA Tours, I mean, it's a real deal. There's a lot of animosity, although we were told everybody was on their best behavior at the Champions Dinner on Tuesday night. What do you think is the number one thing that just chaps guys like Rory McIlroy and Tiger and the other guys who are very, very loyal to the PGA Tour about the guys who've left the PGA Tour for the LIV Tour? What bothers them as much as anything?
If you're Rory or JT, it's being sued by Patrick Reed's probably up there.
Okay, yeah, that's probably up there as well. One thing I've heard is that the PGA Tour guys are most bothered, or in a large way bothered, by what they feel is a dishonest approach by the LIV golfers about why they left. That it's about things like growing the game, or maybe they didn't like the way the PGA Tour treated them.
Mm-hmm.
So several have done it. Now, one of the guys who has left for the LIV Tour is Harold Varner III.
Mm-hmm.
Harold,
Gastonia, North Carolina.
And Harold has a very refreshing approach. Now, this is a LIV golfer who says he wishes that the guys who have left for LIV Golf would be honest about it, because he told the Washington Post this week, there's one reason and one reason only: money. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason. He said they're full of bleep. They're growing their pockets. They're not growing the game. They're growing their pockets. I tell them all the time, all of them, you didn't come here to effing grow the effing game. That's what he said. He said, I play golf so I can change the direction of my family's life, and that's it. No other reason. At least he's being honest about it, right?
I respect that. I understand it.
He goes, these bleepers aren't mad. They're just mad. He's talking about the PGA Tour golfers. They're just mad that you're bleeping with their money. I think some people are jealous, and that's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. But we're all in it for the money. So there's some refreshing honesty involved there.
Yeah, he's been like that. Even Dustin Johnson, Cameron Smith, just saying like, hey, now I can retire and I can, pay for my kids to go through college and not have to worry about working again. The other guys, like the Lee Westwoods and Ian Poulters, who are out there with we're just trying to make the game better and put it in a better place.
Okay.
I don't think so.
All right. I'm so glad that fresh from the Sark availability.
It's actually players, not Sark today.
Oh, players availability. Sorry, is none other than my co-host, the pride of Northwest Williamson County, a proud graduate of Florence High School. You know him best for his outstanding work at Hornets 24/7. That'd be Jeff Howe. I'm so glad you're here right now, because these next two stories I thought about you with regard to Inconceivable.
Okay.
One of them is a collectible thing. Well, not really. I mean, it's kind of in that. Have you heard this deal about Chad Ochocinco's money?
No, but he's very frugal. I know that.
You are spot on, my friend.
Yeah.
This is how frugal the dude is. Chad Johnson, a.k.a. Chad Ochocinco, has said that he has saved 83% of the salary that he made in the National Football League. 83% over 11 years. He made close to $49 million, and he said he thinks he has saved 83%. So how did he do it?
I've never heard the exact dollar amount, but I've heard the ways he's been frugal over the years.
Here's how he's done it for the folks who haven't. He says he wore fake jewelry from Claire's.
That's the big one, yeah.
Okay. He leased any exotic car that he drove, so he didn't buy and own any of those. He flew on budget airlines to save money. You imagine him hopping on Allegiant or Spirit?
He's been known to do that, yeah.
And then here's the topper. all the time that he was with the Bengals, he did not buy a house. Didn't rent one either. He pulled the Baker Mayfield. He lived in the stadium. So if you think that was just a progressive thing, no. Chad Ochocinco lived inside of Paul Brown Stadium.
One of the most frugal people in the sports entertainment world. I've heard the same things I've heard about Chad Johnson.
Yeah.
I've heard about the late Owen Hart in terms of how frugal he is. Some people might say cheap, that he could squeeze a nickel till a buffalo farts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or worse.
Where in the stadium would he sleep?
I don't know. And maybe that's where Progressive got the idea. I heard about, Chad Ochocinco sleeps in the training room, I guess.
You remember Joe Dirt slept in the boiler room at that radio station where he cleaned the toilets? Maybe something like that. He set him up.
Hey, your favorite guy, Rudy.
Set him up a cot in the boiler room.
Yeah, your favorite guy, Rudy, right? Sleeping there in the stadium in South Bend.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of deal.
Fortune left him a key and a blanket on the cot.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe it was that sort of deal. But he saved 83% of his. So he says anyway. Saved 83.
No, he's like I said, he's pretty dang frugal. Like, and he doesn't go out to eat at like extravagant restaurants. Like he's a chain guy. Like he's a big IHOP, Burger King, McDonald's guy when he goes out to eat.
83% of his cash. So maybe a lesson for all of us, right? Here's a lesson. If you're going to have the Jonas Brothers appear at your Major League Baseball game, might not want to have them do play-by-play.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that happened. When the Yankees played the Phillies on Tuesday, Nick, Joe, and Kevin Jonas were special guests for the Yankees matchup. They hopped onto both the Fan Radio Network broadcast booth and the Yes Network TV booth.
John Sterling's still doing Yankees play-by-play?
Cut down schedule, but yes.
Okay.
Okay, so when they got invited into the Yes Network booth, Michael Kay, longtime voice of the Yankees, the one who goes, "See ya!" when the ball leaves out on the home runs, he allowed Nick to do some play-by-play. And Nick, they said, not bad for a first-timer. Even got to call a base hit as well.
But he's been on TV. He does the voice, and he's familiar with how the whole
he knows.
Mechanics work.
So he called a base hit by Anthony Volpe and all that kind of stuff. But it was the other guys that might want to brush up on the terminology. So somebody's talking about, hey, you guys going to do a concert in Yankee Stadium, right? One of them said, yeah, the stage is going to be where? Right over there. Where? Yeah, right over there by the ball pit. He meant the bullpen.
Oh.
Set up by the ball pit down there. Said the other brothers were flabbergasted and let him know it's actually called a bullpen. So they said they actually went along with the mistake. Said, you guys didn't get that note? No, we're going to fill up the ball pit like a McDonald's ball pit.
Was that like the time Cameron's boyhood hero Jeff Gordon did take me out to the ball game for the Cubs?
Oh, that was brutal.
Called it Wrigley Stadium.
Wrigley Stadium, and then he was terrible at singing it as well. David Cohn was working the telecast. He goes, I like that even better. It's in the ball pit at McDonald's. So the Yes Network had some fun with it. Pitcher warming up later in the game. They had a graphic. So it's
ball pit.
Warming up in the ball pit. So, and they weren't good luck either. Yankees lost 4-1. So, yeah. So there's, that was not too good there with the.
My heart just bleeds for all Yankees fans.
I thought that would bother you a little bit. Okay, we got one other story. I know it's not Friday. I was looking for a Florida man story, but maybe because it's Thursday, you couldn't find one. However, next best thing or
Florida
one of the
woman?
No, we got Australia man.
Okay,
because I know you like that.
Yeah,
as well.
All right, we got to go to our Australia bureau chief, Craig Way.
Well, here it is from Queensland, down in the town of Morayfield. A 26-year-old man is charged with allegedly removing a platypus from its natural habitat. That's what she said, right? Yeah, I know where you're going to say that. Police allege that the man, accompanied by a woman, took one of those duck-billed platypuses, took the platypus from a local waterway on Tuesday. Then they take the platypus onto a train and travel.
That's random.
To the nearby town of Caboolture, where they entered a shopping mall and they started showing the animal off to shoppers in the mall. Hey, mate. Come over here and check out me platypus. Thanks. That sounds like a private thing between you and the missus.
Is this the equivalent of like if somebody grabbed a beaver out of the river and just started taking it around?
Yeah, that kind of deal. The man, then they found out about it. A man was charged one count of taking a protected animal and a restriction on keeping or using a protected animal. Such charges can carry a maximum penalty of almost $300,000. Watch where you're taking your platypus, okay? What's left of hour number 2 coming up on Light the Tower. We just had a real interesting conversation here off here.
That's a really bad rib that Bucky's played on me that one time.
Yeah.
With the sugar-free gummy bears.
Yeah. This is Light the Tower on the Horn. Craig Wade, Jeff Howe, back from the player availability over on the UT campus.
They do put a warning label on the bag, though. Let you know
they?
If you eat too many of them, you might be going boom,
spending time, more time there. on the throne, that sort of thing. Okay. Yeah. Because that does happen around here occasionally. Not to us, but fortunately,
it does happen. No, player availability, we'll get into some of that next week because there's a lot. 4 guys. Jaron Thompson, Jatavian Sanders, Jahdae Barrett, and Jordan Whittington. I didn't say for Jordan Whittington because I had to get back over here.
Yes.
So we'll get into that next week. I did the football discussion that we'll have in the Longhorn Notebook. I did want to talk some Quinn Ewers because that's our insider piece at Horns 24/7. That was the theme of our Longhorn. Unintentionally, the theme of our Longhorn Blitz podcast this week was kind of the evolution of Quinn Ewers. So when we talk football, we'll get into that. So not so much on the player side today.
Okay. All right. And again, we'll expect to hear. I think we'll hear something, if not by the end of this hour, probably early next hour, about the status of the baseball game for Texas and Kansas State, and of the series. As I mentioned, the way the Big 12 Conference rules are set up for baseball, you basically have 3 days to get your series in from the time the team lands. And by that, I would say, if you come in on Thursday, you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 full days to play. But some of that depends on things like charter travel versus as opposed to commercial travel, and also holiday weekends can get factored in. So who knows for sure with regard to that, but I think we're going to find out by if not by the end of this show, certainly you'll find out probably early next hour. They expect to have an announcement coming out. So.
I know you got to run here in a second, Craig, but Cameron, can I get a breaking news sounder, because we got breaking Texas basketball schedule news. Reported yesterday by John Rothstein, but it is official. The matchup for Texas, since Texas is the road team, it'll be officially titled the Big East Big 12 Battle. How about the Longhorns on December 5th going to Milwaukee to face Marquette?
So there's the official part, the breaking news part, the date on that. Because I talked about it last hour, but I said the date has not been announced yet, only that Texas would be at Marquette.
December 5th.
Okay. Last year it was December 6th when they played Creighton here. So it's funny when
it's
I first
Tuesday. By the way.
Yes, when I first saw John Rothstein's tweet about it yesterday, 90% of it, conservative estimate, 90% of the reaction was about games other than the Texas Marquette game. I found that kind of puzzling. It was all about UConn, Kansas. Why is TCU playing Georgetown again? Why is Iowa State having to play on the road again? Why is BYU and Cincinnati not invited to it? There's all of these other questions.
Cincinnati probably weren't invited because you have weird 14 teams in the conference. Not everybody can be in it.
And that would invariably somebody's response going, but why wouldn't they have, and not, why are the 2 schools that are leaving for the SEC, why are they in it? Why wouldn't you go ahead and have Cincinnati play Xavier? And why would you not have?
Don't Cincinnati and Xavier play anyway?
They did an annual non-conference thing. I'm not sure if they still do or whatever. And then some, and then there were a lot of BYU fans. Greg Wrubell, who's a great guy, the play-by-play voice for BYU, put it up there and said BYU's not in and on it. Just letting you know, he wasn't issuing an opinion. He was just saying, here's how. And there were a lot of BYU fans that said, good, our basketball is not yet ready for the Big 12 Conference yet.
Jimmer Fredette's not walking through that door.
No.
Sean Bradley's not walking through that door.
Danny Ainge is not walking through that door.
We covered the three,
if you go old
three
school.
Most prominent BYU basketball
I think
alums.
Probably so. Yeah. So, yeah.
Would you like for me to run those down, Craig?
Please
those matchups real quick. So, November 30th, Texas Tech at Butler. That same day, Creighton at Oklahoma State. All on December 1st, Iowa State at DePaul, Houston at Xavier, UConn at Kansas, St. John's at West Virginia. On December 2nd, as you said, TCU at Georgetown. December 5th, Texas at Marquette, also Providence at Oklahoma. Then on December 5th, Villanova at K-State, Seton Hall at Baylor.
Okay. some interesting matchups out of that. Certainly UConn, Kansas.
That's the big one.
Mm-hmm. And we could see Texas playing UConn at Madison Square Garden prior to that in the Empire Classic, right? We've not seen the matchups yet.
No, St. John's, West Virginia is interesting just because, that's two Hall of Fame coaches going at it with Rick Pitino and Bob Huggins.
Yeah. So there's your breaking news with regard to that. Okay, we need a break. When we come back, it'll get to the notebook, and Jeff will be taking it the rest of the way. I'm headed over to the ballpark whenever there is baseball this weekend, and there will be baseball this weekend at some point, but we want to make sure things are remedied technically, so we're going to go over and handle some of those issues coming up. And we'll continue with Light the Tower on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. Well, you've heard me tell you about our friends at Total Men's Primary Care. That's basically your one-stop shopping for you guys in terms of taking care of your health, which we always say has never been easier because if you go to Total Men's, if you need to get the annual physical, they can handle that for you. If you need to set up a weight loss program, they can handle that too through a combination of diet and consultation and medication and coaching and things of that nature. If you are concerned that you might be one of those 1 out of every 3 men over the age of 40 who might have low testosterone, and low T levels, of course, can make you feel tired and grumpy and raise your cholesterol levels and cause weight gain, well, Total Men's Primary Care specializes in treating men with low T as well. And you don't even have to take my word for it. Schedule an appointment online for any of those reasons, those other things that may be bothering you. Go to TotalMens.com. You'll see the yellow button. Click on that where it says book an appointment. Then you're easily able to book the appointment for yourself or a family member. And remember, Total Men's also accepts Medicare as well. TotalMens.com is where you want to go. Total Men's Primary Care, the doctor's office just for men.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes.
Okay, I want to clear up something just before I get out the door here, and then we're going to get into Jeff will get into the Longhorn Notebook before I have to take off. This is in response to a question on the Specs text line. Well, a couple things. First of all, somebody saying, hey, Cincinnati and Xavier do play the Crosstown Shootout every year. So there you go to answer your question on that. Longhorn Bear said, why is a player not a coach saying LSU won't visit the White House? Has NIL gotten that powerful already? He's referring to Angel Reese. She said it on a podcast. She said, we won't go there. We'll go see the Obamas. I think she was just saying that to be saying it. The LSU athletic department already yesterday said they would be happy to accept an invitation to the White House. Whether she goes or not is up to her, but LSU has already said they're going.
Yeah, and this is just like any time an NFL team or an NBA team, anybody, the team, the organization goes, but not every player goes.
Right.
And some people do it for political reasons. If there's a Republican in office and you're a staunch Democrat, maybe you don't want to go, or vice versa. Maybe there's a Democrat in office, you're a staunch Republican, you don't want to go.
Yes.
That's up to it's an individual decision.
But Angel Reese wasn't speaking for the team, even though she said we won't go. She was using we in the singular form, meaning her. The team has already, or the athletic department has already said we would accept any invitation.
Right. You accept it, and then if whoever wants to show up, the plane's leaving at such and such time, be there and let's roll.
There it is. All right, I'm going to let you roll with the rest of this. And again, we're expecting an announcement around the top of the hour with regard to the status of today's baseball game.
Before we get into Longhorn Notebook, Cam, we got a flex or no?
Of course, we can always do a
flex.
Right,
yeah, go ahead and get your Flex 30 update.
Flex ATX for the best high school sports coverage. Listen to the Horn and go to FLXATX.com. Flex 30 is brought to you by Brain Vault. Brain Vault is a revolutionary and patented mouthguard that has been proven to help reduce the risk of concussion. Visit BrainVault.com and join the movement.
What you got, Cam?
Well, if you're looking forward to some high school baseball tonight, you're probably going to have to wait until Friday, maybe Saturday, maybe even Monday, unless you have a turf field. Right now, it's looking pretty ugly. Round Rock and Vanderbilt's supposed to play tonight. Has not officially been announced yet. Double check with the social media accounts, booster clubs, yada, yada, yada. Hopefully, tomorrow's regional semifinal games will not be affected either, Jeff. We got about 6, I think, Centex teams playing in the soccer boys and girls tomorrow night. Best wishes to all of them. And last night had a great Flex ATX show with Zach Lucero, Nolan Hogan, and then Corey Mose from K-View came in studio with us, joined the show. We had Ben Kinnison, the head coach at Buda Johnson, coming off a great season where Buda Johnson actually snapped Westlake's 85-game win streak at home in district play. He joined the show, talked about the move up from 5A to 6A, where the program's at. And then we also had the brand new Round Rock head football coach join in, Cody Moore, as well, a great guy. He was the DC, Jeff, at Round Rock for a few years. He was at Stephenville. He played for Gary Patterson at TCU. Actually asked him a little bit about what it was like to play for Gary Patterson during the first part of his tenure up in Fort Worth. So that was a great show. You can catch it on hornfm.com or flexatx.com. Anywhere you get your podcast, just look up the Flex ATX podcast. And got any questions, hit us up on the Specs text line. But it was a great show, and make sure you check it out.
Would you like a Cody Moore fun fact that'll take 2 seconds?
Let's do it.
I played against Cody Moore in high school.
Okay.
Florence and Comfort were in the same district.
So he played, I believe, DB or linebacker. And when he got to Fort Worth, Gary Patterson, his style defensive lineman, was like, we want boys who are quick and athletic, and we're going to put some muscle on you.
Yeah, he was kind of just an athlete
hybrid
type guy. Yeah. He mainly a defensive lineman.
Yeah.
He played offensive line at TCU, right? Or was he a D lineman at TCU?
I thought he was D-line.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, he was an athletic guy, I believe, if I remember right. I think played varsity as a freshman at Comfort. That was a really good Comfort program at the time, too. So, yeah, there's a little fun fact on Coach Moore. So, there you go. FlexATX.com for all of your high school sports needs. All right, let's go ahead and get into the notebook.
Jeff Howe's Longhorn Notebook.
So, a couple of things I would like to direct you to. Number one, get over to Horns 24/7. that's where you'll find our insider piece. And it's all about Steve Sarkisian's offseason priority of getting the passing game fixed. It's what Sark has talked about even going back to the end of last year. The passing game didn't click in the way they wanted it to. He knows they need to be more efficient. Deep shots are a part of Sark's offense. Those need to be hit on more of a consistent basis. The kinks need to get worked out. So all of that stuff is in the insider column, and it's heavy on Quinn Ewers, too, in our insider piece at Horns 24/7. So get over there and check that out. Also, the Longhorn Blitz podcast this week. If you're a subscriber, thank you so much for listening. If you're not, search Horns 24/7. That's Horns 247, no dashes, slashes, or spaces. Click the follow button. Get every episode of the Blitz, including this week's, which we were going to talk kind of big picture spring football, but it ended up being basically an hour-long discussion on the evolution, the development of Quinn Ewers, which it made for really good football talk. There's Patrick Mahomes references and Brett Favre references, and we talk about the importance of JT Sanders and basically, how he ties into the offense. But it all goes back to Quinn Ewers being the focal point of this passing game, improving from where it was last year. And the main question I had with Quinn was this, and we know Quinn struggles and the footwork deal and him thinking he had it figured out after the Oklahoma game, and he didn't in that Oklahoma State game, just how things went off the rails. And we get into this on the Blitz, and really the premise started with Quinn in the last scrimmage was said to basically have a mistake-free scrimmage. Didn't hear about any huge plays happening, but didn't really hear about him making the big blunder either. And this is a Texas defense that I'm expecting to be pretty good in 2023. I'm not expecting them to take a step back. Are they going to be, appreciably better, which would make them one of the best defenses in the country? That remains to be seen, but I expect this defense to at least be on par with what it was last year. So again, a pretty good defense. So if Quinn's having scrimmages and scrimmage situations where he's limiting the mistakes and not getting himself and by proxy the offense and the team in a bind, that's a sign of real growth. And we get into it on the Blitz where we talk about, the quick game and how the NFL is becoming more of a quick game league and Quinn utilizing the quick game in the Alamo Bowl, how guys with these big arms, that's kind of how they have to work defenses out of things like too high shell coverages to make coverages more advantageous to taking shots down the field. You take fewer shots, but because of your willingness to take quick game, take what the defense gives you, those shots are going to be there. And when they're there, you do have a higher chance of hitting them. We get into that on the Blitz, but Cameron, I want to know where you stand on this. And I don't pretend to evaluate or know about quarterbacks enough to figure out this chicken egg thing to this conversation. Is it Quinn Ewers' poor footwork and fundamentals that are causing him to have trouble processing post-snap? Or are his issues post-snap and his lack of experience resulting in the poor footwork and fundamentals?
So I remember what Trent Dilfer said, because Dilfer runs the Elite 11.
Used to,
now he's at UAB.
Yeah.
But he said when Ewers got there that, he has the talent, but his footwork was really lazy. But because in high school he was, heads and shoulders above the rest, he could be lazy with his footwork and still have the arm talent to, not make mistakes to win football games. But NFL scouts, would say, like, he's got to get his footwork cleaned up. And I think we saw a little bit of that last year, Jeff. I'm right there with you. I'm not a quarterback evaluator. Don't claim to be.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know that anybody is. Cam.
Yeah.
Like, they're the best of the best. I go back to the example I use to say we're all flawed looking at that position, no matter how good you think you are, or how good people tell you are. Bill Walsh, the late, great Bill Walsh, maybe the greatest quarterback mind to ever roam this mortal world, once said he had seen the next Joe Montana, and his name was Rick Meyer. So even Bill Walsh got it wrong from time to time. Drafted Giovanni Carmazzi instead of Tom Brady. Like, it happens. But yeah, my thing with Quinn too, and I think we forget this about Quinn. You go back to after his sophomore year at Southlake, which when everybody in the recruiting game, that's when we figured out, okay, this kid's special. Like, he's got, however you want to comp his skill set, Trevor Lawrence, Phillip Rivers, whatever the comp is, he's special. But you go into that offseason before his junior year and the COVID shutdown, which anybody that's going to stunt your development, especially a quarterback where you need to be, it's got to be hands-on learning, right? So that wasn't ideal. You go from that to going into his junior year where, remember, 5As and 6As that year got the late start to the season.
Mm-hmm.
And then Quinn had the sports hernia injury and the surgery.
Yeah.
So his last game pre-surgery was the day before Halloween. And he didn't get back on the field until right before Christmas. You remember that season with the delay, 5As and 6As are playing in January. So I think about that, and I think about Quinn coming back from sports hernia, the type of injury where what is that type of injury in the recovery? Where is it going to impact you most? In your core. And when a quarterback throws the football, you think about how much natural torque you've got to put through your hip and your core area to throw the football. Well, when you've got an arm like Quinn does, you can stand flat-footed and throw off your back foot if it's more comfortable. And at the high school level, you can make a lot of throws. And Rod brought this up on the podcast as I'm talking through this. Rod Babers, Ball Don't Lie, 3 to 7 every weekday here on the Horn with Mike Harge. Rod brought this up, and I think it's a great point. Did Quinn just settle into some bad habits recovering from surgery throwing the football? Because you go back to Quinn as a sophomore and even pre-surgery and go look at those tapes and then go watch him in the state championship game against Westlake. I'm not going to take anything away from that Westlake program because Coach Salazar's defense, we've seen it. It's been proven. It is a legit defense. They gave Quinn all kinds of fits. Michael Taft picked him off twice, so take nothing away from what Westlake did in that state championship game. But you watch Quinn's mechanics post-surgery that season and pre-surgery, he does look like a different guy. It looks like a guy that's really trying to compensate for the lack of, I can't just get my hips and my core into throws like I normally would, which results in you can really hang on to some of those lazy habits that you're getting away with. So then you fast forward going to the spring, he doesn't get a senior year of high school because he's at Ohio State. And how much, and I'm not knocking Ryan Day, but how much development can you really do with a guy that's running your scout team? Like you're running somebody else's plays on a card.
And he had a shoulder thing too, right?
That wasn't until the when he got to Texas, the Alabama.
But
game.
didn't he miss some time, or was he just sick, right?
I think he was just sick.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it was a structural injury. I think he was just sick. I'll go back and look at that during the break so maybe I can clarify that before we get out of here, Cam. It's a good point. But how much development was really going on during that 2021 season when he redshirted at Ohio State? So you take all that into consideration. So you get a guy coming into Texas last spring who basically had not been himself throwing the football in an offense that he's going to run for basically the better part of 2 years at that point. So, yeah, there were going to be growing pains. We just didn't think the growing pains were going to be as rough as they were. But when you sit back and think about, and I'm not excusing some of the poor play because some of that's on Quinn, some of that's on Sark, some of that's on the offensive line, and we didn't have the time in the show to get into that. But considering everything that he was up against, it's almost remarkable he had as much success as he did. Where you saw him start to struggle or when teams started to figure out how to play him. That's when you saw the defenses that really utilize that 3 safety look. They hang out in 2 high shells. Oklahoma State does it. TCU does it. Iowa State does it. Go on down the list. That's when we really saw Quinn. Baylor structurally can get into some of that. That's where we really saw him struggle. And the counter didn't come up really until the bowl game when you didn't have the counter for Texas last year in the regular season was, all right, the passing game's not clicking, turn around and hand it to Roschon and Bijan. Just let them carry you across the finish line. Texas did that in the Baylor game. They did it in the Iowa State game. Didn't do it in the Oklahoma State game and really couldn't get it done in the TCU game. Really nothing offensively was working for them against TCU. Mm-hmm. So what was the counter in the bowl game with those 2 guys out? Take what the defense gives you. If they're going to give you the quick game, they're going to give you the short throws, man, take them. And I felt like we saw real growth. That's when I keep talking about this process of we saw real growth from Quinn during the bowl game. That's where you saw growth. It's the willingness to take those check down throws, take the safety valves. And Jatavian Sanders, that's why I think, Cameron, until this running game really gets going and you figure out what you've got with C.J. Baxter or Jonathan Brooks or Jaden Blue, whoever your feature back is, and maybe you don't have one this year, but until you figure out kind of who you are, what you can do in the run game, I think not only the quick game, But that's, again, why I pinpoint J.T. Sanders as the guy this offense can least afford to lose, because when you talk about, the golden arm quarterbacks and how they evolve and how they develop and when they kind of really hone in and refine their skill sets, behind most great golden arm quarterbacks, you can find a great tight end. With, Patrick Mahomes, he's got Travis Kelce. Brett Favre, he had Mark Chmura. Even now, from that Andy Reid coaching tree, that Bill Walsh coaching tree of West Coast offense guys that have taken the West Coast offense and put their own spin on it now to fit modern football, one that I'm fascinated to see how he evolves is Trevor Lawrence under Doug Peterson in Jacksonville. Well, what does Trevor Lawrence have? He's got Evan Ingram. Yeah. Another golden arm quarterback, one of my favorites of all time, Cowboys fans, Troy Aikman was one of those guys. In the Norv Turner offense, who was Troy Aikman's security blanket? Yeah, he had Michael Irvin. He had Alvin Harper. He could hand it to Emmitt Smith. But in the break glass in case of emergency situation, where's Troy Aikman going with the football? He's going to Jay Novacek. He said it time and again, Jay Novacek was a security blanket. So where you're going to stress the defense, it's not necessarily with those shot plays, but it's the intermediate game between the seams off of the quick game. That's where Jatavian Sanders can really hurt a defense. We saw him do it last year when he and Quinn were on the same page, is really when the passing game was at its best. So that's, in a nutshell, that's where you need to see Quinn Ewers evolve. And you need to see Sark evolve as a play caller. Can you take the short stuff and the quick stuff and build your passing game out from there? Because you don't have the proven commodities in the run game to lean on like you did last year. Am I missing anything, Cam? Are you with me? Do you have another point here? Just kind of give me your thoughts on all this.
I'll give you an amen on everything you just said. I think we saw Ewers kind of grow up. I think it was the press conference before the Alamo Bowl where he was just like, I had some learning to do. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that was just maybe the processing part, him just relying too much on his footwork, because a lot of Texas fans started to screen grab his footwork on throws that were bad. And it's like, all right, you can't just, use the still pictures. A picture doesn't tell the full story. Look at Patrick Mahomes. He has his footwork is probably not the best at times, but he's the best quarterback in the league. And for Ewers, I think, he can still, use his talent, but also there still is some development he needs to go through that he didn't have the last 3 years dating back to his time at South Lake Carroll through the injuries in COVID. I think people kind of expected him to come out and be that 5-star, look at me, I'm ready to win the Heisman as a freshman quarterback. And he wasn't ready for that because he wasn't truly developed. And I think maybe some of that was on his end. Some of it was probably the play calling and maybe Sark. But it sounded like he went through a growing process. Yeah. And I thought the same thing. The Allen Bowl, I thought Ewers played actually really good. He had a couple bad drops. I think there was 1 or 2 routes that were miscommunications that may have not been on him. I haven't watched it since I think the second time through.
I'll be honest, Cam, I have a problem, especially in the heat of the moment, and even reviewing it, saying, oh, this is on the receiver or this is on the quarterback. Because unless you're sitting in the film room on Sunday with those guys, you don't know. Yeah. No, we really don't know. We have an idea, but you can't definitively say unless you're talking to, any of the parties involved, what was wrong with that. CB and Belton Gringo bring up something on the Specs text line, 337-3776. Man, how many times did Vince Young look for David Thomas in that 2005 season? And to an extent, you go back to 2008, Matt Butler brought this up on the podcast when Colt McCoy set the NCAA completion percentage record. If Texas didn't have a tight end, Blaine Irby got hurt, and they basically went without a tight end. Who was their tight end that year? Basically just kicked Jordan Shipley inside and made him a flex tight end. And that's where your intermediate passing game came from, was Jordan Shipley. I think about that Oklahoma game, man, where he just worked Oklahoma to death over the middle. It was death by 1,000 paper cuts in that game. So that's where, and the reason why I brought up Mahomes and Favre specifically is my thing, and I would think Quinn right now is putting in a lot of work, because spring football is the time where you can work on things like your footwork and mechanics, because you've got the time during practice to do that. That's what spring ball is for. But I think he really needs to get with a good private coach, because I know, and I'm not going to knock anybody's teaching of the position. Again, there are guys far more qualified to teach that position than I ever will be. But I know he's done some work with Jeff Christensen, who's also done work with Patrick Mahomes. Man, if there's 2 quarterbacks I would not learn fundamentals and technique from, I would not base my foundation on, Patrick Mahomes and Brett Favre are the 2 that immediately come to mind. Like, it's funny now to go back and watch some old, like if you watch like a Football Life on Brett Favre or anything on Mike Holmgren, it is hilarious now to look at just how much. And you got to think Mike Holmgren had Joe Montana, he had Steve Young when he was with Bill Walsh. Like Joe Montana might have the best, and as much as I hate Joe Montana, think about how much of a compliment this is. Joe Montana might have the best footwork ever for a quarterback in the history of the game. But that's what Mike Holmgren was used to, because Bill Walsh used to say, man, in the West Coast offense, the quarterback's footwork will tell you kind of when the ball's supposed to come out if you just watch the quarterback's feet. And Joe Montana had great footwork, and Steve Young was a little bit sloppy, but he got better. But man, it's funny like how much Brett Favre just used to piss Mike Holmgren off with just how much of a Mustang, just a wild stallion he was. And Holmgren had to try to bring him in. And it's funny because Andy Reid was on that Green Bay staff. Andy Reid's got Patrick Mahomes. So you've got these golden gun quarterbacks, and now you have to make sure they've got some longevity. Make sure you can build, give them a good foundation, so that way they can be your quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years. And Quinn Ewers won't be at Texas that long, but I think that's the key for him. I think he's got to get with a really good private coach in addition to what he's doing now to really establish the baseline and fundamentals. So that way, once you get to camp and the game planning starts, now you're not, fundamentals become second nature. Now you're really getting into the nuances of this offense. What does Sark want it to look like? How much do you need to be an extension of the play caller and really become a part of that offense, like we've seen all great Texas quarterbacks do, whether it was VY with Greg Davis, Colt with Greg Davis, Sam Ellinger with Tom Herman. The guys that do it at a high level basically become they become the identity of that offense, and they are that offense, and they understand exactly how it's supposed to run. So I know that's a little long-winded on Quinn Ewers, but I wanted to get that out there and kind of get us into the Easter weekend going into next week. We'll take a break, come back, close out this edition of Light the Tower on the Horn, live, local, and digital, on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. On a rainy day like this, it's a great day to just sit inside and maybe watch whatever sports are on TV, watch a movie. And if you're doing that today, great, good for you. But take a look at your home entertainment setup and ask yourself, is this ideally what I want? And if it's not, just make that call to Tom McKay and Audio Visual Consultations. 512-255-8678. That's 255-8678. That's the call I made. And man, I'm so glad I did. I can watch my sports, my movies, and TVs. You know what? I'll go home and watch some Masters coverage on my 75-inch LG TV with the Sonos sound system that Tom McKay and AV Consultations set up. They'll do a nice professional job at your house. They've got all the mounting hardware. You don't need to worry about getting any of that. They keep the latest smart TVs, the latest Sonos audio in stock. They're not raising prices like everybody else is. Don't try to go to one of those big box stores and piece this together and do it yourself. Just call AV Consultations. Let them take care of it. They will put together a project that not only makes sense for your budget that you've got in mind, but it makes sense for the amount of space you have in your house. So you want that same setup like I've got? They can definitely do that. Maybe you need something smaller? No problem. They can take care of that. And if you got enough room for that full tilt home theater experience, you want that screen that's 150 inches, they can make that happen for you as well. Whatever your needs are, big or small, just get with AV Consultations right now, and they can make it happen. 512-255-8678. That's 255-8678. Don't delay. Call now and let Tom McKay and Audio Visual Consultations help you realize the home entertainment setup of your dreams. Cam and I talking about having bad dreams. Apparently, he had a little nightmare last night. So
yeah, no good.
Get you a good nap, Cam. Today's good napping weather.
It sure is.
Get you a good nap on the couch. Whether you're napping, watching Masters coverage, whatever you're doing the rest of the day, thanks for making 10 to noon, taking out that time and listening to us, letting us carry you through these 2 hours. Stay tuned. Chad and Zay coming up next. We're out tomorrow, so everybody, however you're celebrating your Easter weekend, be safe. Be happy, be healthy, enjoy your family, enjoy your loved ones. Cam, thank you so much for the job you do, and we'll get back after it next week. That's going to do it for the broadcast week. For Craig Way, for Cameron Parker, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for listening, and we will be back on Monday to light the tower on the Horn, live, local, and digital, on the Horn app and at hornfm.com.